Life, it's a work in progress. It's about moments, memories, people, connections. And every interaction that I do with people that matters to me motivates me and inspires me to be better and to continue progressing in this work of life. Conversations with extraordinary people about this beautiful journey called life. And you're going to find it here in the Visible Audio Podcast. I have to say though, I'll let you talk about a little bit about that. But for my case, when I started this podcast, my purpose was to have a conversation, just like we're having right now.
Right.
And obviously, before COVID, my purpose was to have it nicely in my little kitchen area where we can just have coffee or tea and talk, and well,
you mean not in the random
right.
office?
We do have our drink of choice. So cheers to that. Cheers to that. So where I was going with that is that when I started the podcast, my intention was to have a conversation, like I said, but it was to just be open and honest with having the conversation, because with an interview, you have to prep a lot and stuff like that. And I'm not an interviewer. I am not. And I much rather have that connection of the conversation regardless. Right. So to me, it was just natural to do that. But then when I got into editing, I have to, well, that's what I'm saying. I got very addicted to covering the flosses. And I was like, that was not the purpose. So for the first podcast that I did, the audio, I'm not talking about the video, but the audio ones, the first couple of ones, I did a lot of editing that probably could be left there. And then I started realizing, I want to say that it was on actually a video episode, and I think it was with my sisters. I was like, people deserve to see the real me. Like, why am I hiding these flaws? Yeah, I was, kind of apprehensive about my accent and about people understanding me, and the long pauses that I make when I'm thinking, the and oh, and
and you're part of the group. Me too.
Hashtag we're humans.
Hashtag the club.
That's right.
I may be co-leading. I don't know, but I'm a part of the club for sure. Or the eyeball club. Like, take your pick.
Yes. Both. Right. It's like, but it should be that way. I mean, we are humans. We can't be seeking so much to be and expose ourselves to, out there of a persona that we're not.
Right.
I have an accent, whatever I do.
Right.
I do think, thank goodness, I'm okay with that. So, yeah. So all those flosses, I just left them behind. I was like, what the heck? So I remember on my the one that I did in Spanish with my sisters, the podcast, the episode that I did, I put it on video, and I decided, there's episodes there that were really funny and were really heartfelt. I need to put them in there. And I did. I did, some of the crazy talk that we had. And I found myself a lot more freed to be able to, for the next episodes, to be more eloquent and be able to talk a little bit better and not be so afraid of to say the right thing.
Right.
Because it wouldn't be me. It would be a very much rehearsed me. And I want it to be me during this podcast. So I don't know. Does that make sense? Right?
It does. It makes complete sense. The funny thing is, so let me backtrack. So when I think about being on Zoom, like this is not my first time. Like I had been on Zoom quite a few times before COVID. Obviously COVID has changed.
Yeah.
But in my daytime life, I teach early childhood and intro to psychology at a tribal college. And what's interesting is I work with quite a few faculty members, whether they're full-time or adjunct. And I'll never forget, one of the faculty was like, I'm really getting used to being on camera. Mm-hmm. And I thought, getting used to being on camera? I'm like, well, I don't, I didn't quite get it. But then I think back, I was asked to be a part of an interview back in March, right? And when I look at myself, I'm like, oh, that was not too good. That's when I realized I was a part of the Eyeball and Club. I was a part of the dual group. But then I also remember at the beginning of January, I started teaching a course online. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to do like a brief intro of myself. Okay, so first off, I did it in this room. Bad idea. And I say that because it's crowded, it's cluttered, it's just too much, and it takes away from me as the person that's speaking. But I'm thankful that I did it, because now I'm working on doing all these like micro lecture recordings and stuff. And I've got these videos where I can see, mm-hmm. I had no idea what I was doing, but I did my best. But I can tell that I'm much more comfortable being on camera than what I was before. Yeah. But what I don't get hung up on is certain things I'm not wasting my time editing. So if I'm doing a lecture, which is 15 minutes or less, that's the intent. It's a micro lecture. I've said to faculty, I said, don't get caught up trying to edit everything and making it perfect, because you want your students to know that you are real. Mm-hmm. You're not perfect, mm-hmm. And so again, I remind myself, I think I've gotten comfortable to where, you know what, if I don't have on makeup and I go on camera that day and it's recorded, like it is what it is. And I've done that multiple times. Mm-hmm. And some people will say like, oh, well, you got to be ready. No, I don't have to do all those things, because I'm not always dressed up every day. If we did this yesterday, it would have been a non-makeup day. But I knew today there's just several things that I was like, okay, we're going to be doing a lot of recording. So if this is going to hit the internet, we're just going to make sure we look okay.
Presentable.
Presentable. And because I have to remind myself certain mm-hmm. things, I'm still a professional. So I have to make sure that I am put together.
Right.
But I agree. I think sometimes like getting into this type of work, initially you're going through that process of like, I've got to edit this, I've got to take mm-hmm. this out, and it's not perfect, and mm-hmm. It's not about that for me. Like at the end of the day, I want people to know like I'm human. I too am trying to figure out, how does this all work? And we're trying to take our creativity, which is great, but we're not used to doing the creative part and then the editing part, like the whole production that goes behind it. People don't understand that part. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure you get it when you prepare for your visual podcast. I'm sure you have a process. Mm-hmm. And people don't know, like, there's a process before you even get to the editing part. And that's the creative piece, But I think that's why I got to the point where I was like, you know what? I don't care what people think. Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a good thing too, because, your spectator may be looking for that too, that to get to know you, your human side. And I want to say that probably every single, we're talking about influencers, every single influencer or creator most likely have seen their first video and say, what the heck? Or heard the first podcast and say, what the heck? I think all of us, because it's a learning process. But the good thing is to kind of, that, I hope that everybody realizes that the less editing we do, maybe in the things that we create, or the more humanized that our product looks, it's better. It's not only because it's maybe something that people are looking into, but to us, I think that I have learned so much from just being human. At least I realize, and I wouldn't be able to know until I went through this process of
Right.
me doing this editing and doing all the things that that have taught me. And I'm not saying that I'm an expert whatsoever right now, because I only have so many months literally of doing this, and I'm sure that along the way don't base it on me, people. There's people out there that teach this. So no me. But regardless, what I can tell you, it's my experience and what I have done so far. And I could see a little bit of a curve, and I'm still, way far from what I want to be. But I know that that learning curve is going to continue. And I think that to me, it's actually a motivation to keep going,
Right.
that there's some more learning to do. I hope, I know this sounds really weird, but I hope that I never get to be up there, up to the top, because then there won't be more learning to do, or there won't be more aspiration. But I do hope that I do get, higher than I hopefully expect to be. But
Right.
but I would love inside that learning curve. That's what is encouraging me to, keep going and keep doing and keep creating and stuff like that. And I'm sure as much as you will be the fact of creating. I mean, that's what is attracting to us,
Yes. Yes.
But so I wanna ask you this question, and I don't know how you're gonna react to it, because to me it's a very difficult question to answer. But
Okay.
I feel that at this point we can probably answer it. I hope. First off, maybe a two-part question. What kind of things have you learned from let's put it, being an influencer or providing information to other people? Because in my respect, I have learned so much myself. I don't know what other people have learned from me, maybe nothing, but I have learned so much from myself. So what have you, or is it something that you can think about that?
I think, wow.
I know that's a loaded question, I think.
I think when I think about how and when I started the podcast, it was timing. Like there was a lot of momentum going on.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what I've learned is that even when you don't have the momentum, meaning like maybe you didn't have as many people listening to those episodes,
Mm-hmm.
not getting hung up on it and just like continue making the podcast. I think I feel like something else I've learned is just streamlining the process. I don't always do it all in one day,
Mm-hmm.
I find it better to write a little bit, then go back and read it, and then write a little bit more. And to me, it's just more organic for me that way. And I think also what I truly have enjoyed is I don't want to say I'm proud of myself, but I'm proud of myself in not being afraid to do these Facebook Lives, because I felt like I wanted to connect with those that were listening to the podcast, or even if they're not listening, but just being able to connect with people that are like, you know what, I may not be listening, but I like being a part of the group. And I like the fact that you have these random pictures to go with your story. I love that piece. And I think that's just part of it, maybe because we're in COVID and I'm an extrovert. And so I want to connect with people in whatever way that I can.
I feel that this process, well, technically had taught me a lot.
Yeah.
I had no idea. And I know that we talked about this the other day about certain social media outlets, and I had my sister helping me out because she's a lot younger.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to say, I'm getting to that age, I guess. But it was not of my interest, so I never explored it. So when I had to explore it, it became a little bit difficult. So my sister became my IT person. Thankful to have her.
I know the feeling.
I know. And so, but at the same time, it has also taught me about, I mean, technically speaking, about marketing, about editing. I never ever in my life edited a video. Um, so about, editing the podcast itself, about finding ways to make it good, and the audio and this and that, blah blah blah. um Now, if I go into my own self, I have learned a lot from it. First off, like I mentioned before, not to be perfect, and
Right.
not to looking for that perfection, because I think that ruins almost, you know the podcast, the episode itself,
Right.
that attempting to do that. um and I think not to be afraid to that. If I want to do something, sometimes there are things that make you, um to give you more courage to do other stuff, and I think this was one of them for me. It gave me more freedom and liberty to do what I wanted to say, and to share just a conversation with my friends, which have been priceless. I mean, the connections that I've been able to make with you, and with other people that I have had conversations with, is just priceless. Because
Yes.
we always have these kind of conversations, not in such a depth, but we always have these talks, and sometimes, um knowing a little bit about what you're doing, or excuse me, a different aspect of your life, and you be willing to expose it out there with me in this crazy podcast. Ta-da! It's awesome. And I love the willingness, and knowing that I have people around me that is willing to do this, and that is willing to talk to me about these things, no matter how crazy the conversation goes into.
Right.
So, I mean, there's just been so much. I can keep going on and on and on about so many things that, but I think that everybody that starts something new that is their own, and it's kind of their baby, probably experience, the same thing.
Right.
And all I can think is just how much other influencers and creators have probably gone through similar experiences. Some of them maybe a little more prepared and knowledgeable than me, that on everything. Some of them a lot probably less, and they probably can relate to my story of, learning things, new
Right.
social
Right.
media, how to handle the microphone, and editing videos, and handling cooking dinner, and getting
Right.
my girls ready
Right.
for the day, and working, and making time for this. So whatever their journey have been, I hope that if you are listening to me and you are uh, a podcaster or a YouTuber or whatever it is, a influencer, a creator, that you can relate to this, that you can look back and admire all the things that you have done for yourself. And I do hope that you do have good content because please help the world have good content.
Yes.
um and fun and realistic and human. I think that's the main thing, for all of us. But the I don't know if you have anything else to add.
I think I would just say, you know, we have been, I think, as professional women and
Mm-hmm.
mothers and stay-at-home moms, especially our generation, like those of us that are over the age of 35, maybe 34, we've watched a lot of these influencers, and a lot of them have influenced us, if we're being honest.
Yep.
But I guess what I would say is we have something to say too. And I think it's important that we start speaking up, and not being afraid, because there's going to be this other generation that comes up. And, I look at my 11-year-old daughter who's like, I had no idea, no clue that mommy did 25% of the things that she does. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And my husband, it's not that he wasn't aware, but because we're all home, they're like, you work like this every day? Like every day it's like this. Yes. I don't know any other way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I feel like because of this specific time, it's now giving a lot of us that have been, grinding for years, 18 plus years professionally, doing whatever we chose to do, or staying at home, or maybe you started out professionally and then you got married and had kids and you decided to stay home.
Yeah.
I feel like if you've got the time to do it, just start documenting, because there will be other generations of girls or women that are coming up trying to figure out like how. I don't know how you do it. How do you but if we don't speak up and start sharing our stories and saying, listen, it wasn't always perfect. There's a reason why I haven't been able to do this until I was 37. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because I had a young child at one point. Yes, she is still young, but there's a difference between 11 and 6. And I know you know.
Oh, yeah.
And so, but I also think, because I grew up with a working mom, and of course I now know, like, it was not always easy for her, but it's not necessarily documented. I just lived it. I grew up, I lived through it. And so I hope in just sharing my story and listening to other stories, that's the kind of content that I'm hoping to see, is hearing women that are roughly our age saying, you know what, this is what's going on. And just creating more access for people to hear that it's not easy, and we've had to make tough decisions as far as, do I stay home or do I go back to work, or what does that look like? And we're just trying to figure it out. And some of us have been single married parents, or we're single parents. And I just feel like people want to hear those things, and it just makes, I don't know. And I also just think, like, I like listening to your podcast or watching it because I can relate to it, not just because we're friends, but that's the kind of content that I'm looking for. I don't want anything else talking about professional things. I feel like my cup is good. I don't need any more things.
Right.
Because, trainings and conferences, they're all virtual. But just to hear, like, wow, this mom is struggling too. Or this mom is like trying to figure out, how am I going to stockpile groceries?
Exactly.
And that's like a taboo topic. But, there's just different things. Or there are situations where moms may have to hold it down because dad's lost his job. Can we have that conversation too?
Right. And I think that that's such a powerful topic on itself. I mean, it's, we as women and in general, human beings, all of us have experienced this change. But I do sympathize with you because, well, obviously because I'm a woman, but nevertheless, because I feel that we as women has can have such an impact on our children, on our spouses, and a lot of things that are happening right now. Because, like you said, I would like to hear that too. And this is why, I'm not feminist or anything, but this is why I have, mostly women in my show, is because I love to hear what they have overcome and how strong they are and how much power they hold. And I hope that there are more content out there related to this, because I would love to hear it. And I would love
too.
Yeah, I want to see, and I think that you have touched such an important thing, that we are in times that, I'm hoping in 3 years from now, it's going to be something, it is something historic right now. And I know that many generations from now are going to probably they're going to talk about this at school, and having our kids growing up to have lived that and know that from us directly. I think that's so great and impactful. It's horrible that we're going through this, but at the same time, I think you are touching on the positive about it. We need to recognize that there's so much that we can do and record and just remember about this, and that could be a lesson or encouragement or something for another person, women in another generation, in this generation, who knows. But yeah, I mean, and that's what I mean with the content. And I think that that's the main thing that I wanted to for my listeners or viewers to know and understand. It's, if you do this, and I encourage you to do it, if you have the urge to do it, to create, to influence other people, do it. But also be responsible about how you do it and what you choose to put out there. The content that you do, even if it's something mindless and it's something that, will help other people relax maybe and stuff. There is a division between, what can be good and responsible out there versus, putting information out there that can hurt other people or, hurt your viewers or, discourage them from doing something. So I think that that's and I can find a good word or a good adjective to put to it, but because I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's, necessarily useless. It's just content that it's not doing any purpose, to it. So if you do this, if you decide to do this, and I encourage you to do it, if you have the heart for it, go ahead and do it. It's hard work, but it is so worth it at the end. Just like child labor. It's horrible.
I don't know. I think I don't know, but I feel like I've had a lot of birthing experiences. I know I said to you the other night, I had no idea if you give birth that they will hand you a diaper. And I have used that reference multiple times. I'm like, oh Lord, I just gave some birth to some curriculum. Hand me a pamper. I just say it. People are like, did she just say hand me a pamper? Yes, because I just gave birth. So I'm just like, it's an experience from what I've been told.
It is, and you have to be prepared for it. I mean, I think she put it in the nicest words possible, but the reference is real. It's so real. So, first of all, thank you, Dee, so much for joining me once more. These conversations are so awesome because I always end up laughing, having a good time. I love it. And at the same time, you can go so deep into something too. I love it. It's so great. But anyways, for all our listeners and watchers, thank you so much for watching this episode or listening to this episode. I hope you got super inspired to do great things. And I'll see you in the next one.
Bye.